I never liked judging my colleagues. You spend so much time in hallways with patients and emergencies that you learn to live with everyone's quirks. In the end, we're all dealing with something. But sometimes, appearances deceive you so completely that not even years of experience can prepare you for discovering what's been happening right in front of your eyes. His name was Dr. Richard, cardiologist, mid-30s, easy smile, calm voice, and a way of treating patients that made everyone like him. He was one of those doctors who seemed to have everything under control: spotless uniform, precise diagnoses, the right words to calm a desperate family. I met him when I was transferred to Central Hospital. From day one, he struck me as kind. We used to drink coffee together in the break room, talk about cases, the endless hospital bureaucracy, and the exhaustion of double shifts. Richard always had a sarcastic remark or a funny story that could make you smile even on the worst days. But over time, little things started to catch my attention. It began with small details. One night, a nurse named Patricia mentioned that Dr. Richard had requested morphine twice for the same patient. Maybe it was a mistake, I thought. During night shifts, the electronic records sometimes glitch, or you get mixed up with so many entries. But the following week, another colleague, Julian, told me something similar. "Hey," he said, "have you noticed Richard always stops by the pharmacy when shifts change? He says he's restocking supplies, but no one knows where he goes afterward." I laughed. Didn't think much of it. Richard was trustworthy. If he needed medication, he must have had a good reason, but coincidences started to pile up. One day, I walked into the procedure room and found him checking the narcotics cabinet. He closed it quickly when he saw me, then said casually, "Just checking the inventory. We're running low on fentanyl, and you know how long pharmacy takes to refill." I believed him. Who hasn't checked supplies before a heavy shift? But that night I couldn't sleep. There was something in his tone, a barely noticeable tension. Months passed. Then one day, Patricia, the same nurse, said something that made me pause. "Doctor, did you know Dr. Richard opened a private clinic in San Mateo?" "Oh, really?" I had no idea. "Yeah. It's small, but they say he's doing pain management treatments with state-of-the-art medication." That sounded odd to me. How could he afford that on a hospital salary? And more importantly, where did he find the time to work there if he was practically living here? Still, I didn't ask questions. In medicine, discretion becomes second nature. You see things, you suspect things, but unless there's evidence, it's better to just keep working. Until one morning everything changed. It was a Tuesday, day shift. One of those days when the hospital runs on autopilot. The smell of disinfectant, the low murmur of patients, printers spitting out endless reports. I was reviewing charts at the nurse's station when I heard something that broke the monotony. The sharp sound of boots against linoleum, not the hurried steps of a resident, nor the dragging soles of a patient. It was a firm, heavy rhythm, authoritative. When I turned, I saw them. Two uniformed officers, badges gleaming under the bright white hallway lights, followed by the hospital's head of security. His face tense and pale, they carried a thick envelope sealed with red tape. A court order. The atmosphere changed in seconds. Conversations died out. A nurse who had been laughing with a patient stopped mid-sentence. The beeping of a heart monitor in the background suddenly sounded louder, its rhythm uneven, as if even the machines could sense the tension. One of the officers, a tall man with a stern expression, spoke in a deep voice. "Where is Dr. Richard?" For a moment, no one answered. Everyone's eyes turned toward his office at the same time. Then I saw him step out, still wearing his white coat, stethoscope around his neck, a folder of test results in hand. He looked calm, like someone who had just finished seeing a patient and was ready to move on to the next. He tried to smile. "Can I ask what this is about, officers?" The senior officer opened the envelope, pulled out a document, and held it up. "Dr. Richard, you are under investigation for the misuse and diversion of controlled substances." The silence that followed was almost physical. I could feel it pressing against the air as if the oxygen itself had thickened. Nurse Patricia dropped a tray. Metal clattered against the floor, and the scattered syringes made a sharp, trembling sound that made me flinch. Julian, standing by the corner, froze with his mouth half open. "I simply couldn't understand." Richard frowned. There must be some mistake. I've never, but his voice broke before he could finish. One of the officers stepped forward, grabbed his arm, and with a swift movement, cuffed him. The metallic click of the handcuffs was so sharp, so final, that a few patients peeked out of their rooms, confused. And then something happened that I'll never forget. Richard looked at me, just for a moment, but that look froze me to the core. It wasn't just fear. There was something else, a quiet resignation, as if he knew it had all been over long before they came for him. No anger. No surprise. Just the expression of someone who had already rehearsed this moment in his mind too many times. They escorted him down the hall. His white coat brushed the floor, stained at the hem with a faint line of gray dust. No one said a word. The only sound left was the echo of the boots fading away, softer and softer, until all that remained was the beeping of monitors and the hum of the fluorescent lights. That was when we all finally started to breathe again, though nothing ever felt the same after that. The next few hours were pure chaos. The hospital, which usually pulsed with the constant noise of monitors, footsteps, and voices, suddenly became eerily silent. It wasn't the kind of silence that comes from calm, but from fear. Everyone moved slower, speaking in murmurs, as if one wrong word could make things worse. By mid-morning, the hospital administration sent out an internal message. Urgent meeting in the conference room. Attendance mandatory for all medical and nursing staff. When I walked in, the air felt heavy. The director stood in front of us, arms crossed, a posture I had never seen from him before. Next to him, the head of human resources shuffled through some papers without looking up. There was tension, confusion, and something else, shame. The director spoke, his voice so controlled it almost sounded rehearsed. I know you all witnessed what happened this morning. Unfortunately, we must inform you that Dr. Richard is currently under investigation by the authorities. A low murmur rippled through the room. No one wanted to say anything, but everyone was searching each other's eyes, looking for reassurance, or maybe for someone to tell them it wasn't true. The director went on. The investigation stems from a report filed by a patient. According to the complaint, a family member died at Dr. Richard's private clinic after receiving an injection of a powerful painkiller. The medication belongs to a batch that matches several that have gone missing from our hospital inventory. The impact of those words was brutal. I remember Patricia covering her mouth, holding back a sob. Julian, sitting beside me, whispered under his breath, "This can't be. He wouldn't do something like that." I didn't answer. I just felt a knot tightening in my stomach and a sharp pain in my chest that I couldn't explain. The images of the arrest blurred with fragments of memory. Richard laughing in the break room, telling me how a patient once mistook him for a TV actor. Richard helping a new nurse insert a catheter, patient and calm like a mentor. All of it now felt like a carefully staged version of a reality we never truly knew. The director kept talking, but his words no longer reached me. All I caught were fragments: autopsy, overdose, fentanyl, identified batch. Each word felt like another knife twisting deeper. When he finally held up a copy of the preliminary report, I felt the air leave my lungs. The document confirmed the unthinkable. The vial used in the clinic had the exact same serial number as one of the missing ones from our controlled inventory. Someone whispered, "So it really was him." And even though no one replied, the silence that followed was the cruelest confirmation of all. I stared down at my hands, trying to remember if I'd ever noticed anything at all, out of place. An open door, a duplicated record, a quick evasive look. And then I realized, yes, there had been signs. Tiny ones, subtle, easy to ignore when you don't want to see. Patricia began to cry. Not loudly, but that trembling kind of cry that comes from feeling betrayed. "He told me he hated seeing people in pain," she said, voice breaking. "That's why he became a doctor. How can someone like that hurt another human being?" No one answered, because no one had an answer. I sat still, listening to the hum of the air conditioner, the creak of chairs, the muffled sobs. Everything sounded distorted, as if the entire hospital had lost its balance. And while the director struggled to maintain composure, one question echoed inside me. Who was Richard, really? The compassionate doctor who saved lives, or the man who trafficked other people's relief to fill his pockets? I didn't know then, but something inside me, a faint, uneasy voice, whispered that what we'd seen was only the surface of something far darker. Over the next few days, the investigation made headlines. Police found several vials in his clinic with hospital labels, some altered, others empty. According to the report, he used them to offer premium pain treatments to private patients who paid enormous amounts for rapid relief procedures. But what truly sealed his fate was the testimony of a nurse from his clinic. Sometimes he'd show up with unsealed boxes, she said. He claimed they were hospital donations. He never let us check them. Once the story broke, the media shredded his reputation. His face was everywhere, every news segment, every headline. His name now tied to the phrase medical drug trafficking. And though many of us tried to defend him at first, each new piece of evidence left us speechless. The trial dragged on for months. I attended a couple of hearings, maybe out of duty, maybe out of the desperate need to understand. Richard looked thinner, his eyes hollow. His lawyer argued that the patient's death had been an allergic reaction, not an overdose, that the dosage had been correct. But the prosecution presented falsified records, duplicate prescriptions, and hospital security footage showing him entering the pharmacy after hours. The verdict was devastating. Guilty. Theft of controlled substances and involuntary manslaughter. Sentence, 10 years in prison. When I heard it, I felt a strange mix of anger and sorrow. He hadn't only betrayed his patient's trust, he had betrayed all of us. He had stained the very uniform we wear with so much sacrifice. It's been over 2 years since that day. Sometimes, when I pass by the break room, I can still imagine his laughter, the soft clink of his coffee mug against mine, and I think about how easy it is to cross that line. Not all monsters look like monsters. Some wear white coats. They smile at you, cover your shift, and offer you coffee. Until one day, the truth catches up to them. Since that day, I've never looked at a vial of fentanyl the same way again. At how dangerously easy it is to cross the line between easing pain and causing it. Tell me, do you think someone can justify their actions if they do it out of compassion? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know what you would have done in my place. And if this story made you think, or doubt, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, because on this channel, every story hides a truth, and sometimes discovering it hurts.